Hello, eighth grade remote students. I am back to read Act 5, Scene 1. This is our last act, which is very exciting. We're almost done with Romeo and Juliet. So I want to start by doing a little reviewing. So as you know, there were some deaths. Mercutio and Tybalt fought. Mercutio died. Tybalt then died because Romeo killed him. Romeo got himself banished. The Capulets tried to marry Juliet off to Paris. She doesn't like this, so she went to the friar to try to get a plan to get out of marrying him. Um, Juliet goes to the friar and gets a plan to help escape the wedding to Paris. The friar tells Juliet to take a potion that will make her appear as though she's dead, even though she'll be just really fast asleep. Her family will find her dead, have a funeral for her, and Romeo will come get her in the morning and they'll run away to Mantua together, or at least that's the plan. The friar's plan is to send the letters to Romeo and Mantua about the plan using Friar John as his messenger. In scenes 2 through 4, Juliet comes home, tells her father she'll marry Paris. Capulet's happy about this. The nurse and Lady Capulet help her get ready for the wedding tomorrow. Juliet goes to bed, drinks the potion, kind of hesitates for a minute about it, but eventually does. In the morning, the Capulets find Juliet dead and they hold a funeral for her. And what happens is Balthazar, Romeo's servant, peeks in on the funeral, sees that Juliet is dead, and he does not understand that she has faked her death. So this is not good. So today we're actually going to do Act 5, Scene 1 and 2, because Scene 2 is pretty short. So takes place in Mantua. This is where Romeo has been staying. So this is another town, and it is Thursday. And Romeo, Balthazar, who is Romeo's servant, and also there's an apothecary in this scene. An apothecary is like a pharmacist. It's a person who makes and sells potions and medicines, kind of like the friar. All right, let's get started. So Romeo is by himself and he's in Mantua and he's kind of just waiting for a message from Balthazar. To himself, he says, "If I may trust the flattering truth of sleep, my dreams predict some joyful news at hand. My heart is light and lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts. I dreamt my lady came and found me dead and breathed life into my lips with kisses, so that I was revived and was an emperor." So talking about how he had a dream that Juliet came to Mantua and found him dead, and that she kissed him and he became an emperor. So just like a weird dream. Here comes Balthazar, his servant. Romeo is excited to see him. He says, "News from Verona? How now, Balthazar? Dost thou not bring me letters from the friar? Do you not have a letter for me from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How fares my Juliet? That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she be well." Basically saying if Juliet's good, everything's good. Balthazar answers him and sadly tells him the news that Juliet has died. Keep in mind, Romeo has not gotten a letter yet from the friar. Balthazar says, "Her body sleeps in Capulet's vault, and her immortal soul with angels lives. I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it to you. Oh, pardon me for bringing these ill news, since you did leave it for my office, sir." He says, "Sorry to bring bad news to you, but your your love is dead. I saw her laid low in Capulet's vault. She has died." So this is what we call some dramatic irony, because Balthazar does not know that Juliet is actually faking her death. Romeo doesn't know this either. So this is a huge miscommunication. The friar's letter has not gotten to Romeo yet, so he does not know that Juliet is actually faking her death. Romeo says, "Is it e'en so? Then I defy you, stars. Thou knowest where I live. Bring me ink and paper and hire horses. I will hence to Verona tonight." He says, "I'm going to Verona tonight to go see her." Balthazar says, "I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild and will lead to some misadventure." Balthazar says, I think you should wait. I think you should have patience. Your looks are pale and wild, and I think something bad's going to happen." Romeo says, "Thou art deceived. Leave me and do the thing I bid thee do. Hast thou no letters to me from the friar?" So he's like, "You don't have any letters from me from the friar?" Balthazar says, "No, my lord." "No matter. Get thee gone and hire those horses. I will be with thee soon. So Romeo is headed to Verona to go see Juliet for himself. His servant exits. Then he says, "Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. We shall see how, O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of desperate men." So he is headed to see Juliet and saying he will lie with her tonight. Basically, he's going to come up with a plan to try to kill her himself so that he can also be dead because his wife is now dead. He's continuing to talk to himself and he's like walking through Mantua and he's trying to find an apothecary. An apothecary is like a pharmacist. So I'm going to read this and I will explain. I do remember an apothecary, and hereabouts he dwells. Sharp misery has worn him to the bones, and he was thin from hunger. So this apothecary, assuming this is the apothecary and this is Romeo, the apothecary is very poor. He's in poverty. He is hungry. Um, he says, noting his poverty, to myself I said, if a man did need a poison whose sale is present death in Mantua, here lives a poor wretch who would sell it to him. So he says, if someone needed a poison, this guy is poor enough to risk the death penalty to sell it. So he is so poor and so hungry that he is going to give Romeo this poison just so he can get some food. So Romeo is trying to buy poison from this guy to poison himself. He says, "Oh, this thought did precede my need of poison, and this needy man must sell it me. As I remember, this should be the house. The beggar's shop is shut. What ho, apothecary." So he says, he knocks on the door. "Hello, apothecary." Enter apothecary. The apothecary says, "Who calls so loud?" Oops, there we go. So he has now knocked on this apothecary or pharmacist door. Romeo says, "Come hither, man. I see that thou art poor. Hold, there is 40 ducats. These are 40 gold coins. Let me have a dram of poison. Let me have a vial of poison, quick to flow through all the veins, that the life-weary taker may fall dead, and that the body may be robbed of breath as hastily as gunpowder shot from a cannon." He says, "Please give me, here's 40 gold coins. Please give me a vial of poison that will kill me, like, very quickly." The apothecary says, "Such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death to any he that sells them. I have these, but the law says that I cannot sell them to you. And if I do, I'll be killed." Romeo says, "Art thou so poor and full of wretchedness, yet thou fearest dying? Famine is in thy cheeks, thine eyes are starved with oppression. Thou art a beggar, and seen with contempt. The world is not thy friend, nor the law. The world offers no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break the law, and take this." He says, "Please just give me the poison. You'll have some money if you give me this poison. You're starving to death. The world is not your friend. The law is not your friend. The world isn't going to make you rich. And just break the law and take this money." The apothecary says, "My poverty, but not my will, consents." He says, "I will take this money because I'm poor, but not because I want to." Romeo says, "I pay thy poverty and not thy will. I don't care if you want to, you will give me the poison because I'm paying you." So this apothecary gives Romeo the poison, which is not good because he's going to use it to try to kill himself. The apothecary says, "Put this in any drink thing you will and drink it off. And even if you had the strength of 20 men, it will kill you straight away." So he says this will, take you down. Even if you had the strength of 20 men, it will kill you right away. So it's a very, very strong poison. Romeo then gives the apothecary the money, and they make the exchange. So now Romeo has this poison in hand. Romeo says, "There is thy gold, which is worse than poison for men's souls. For money kills more people in this loathsome world than these poisons, then thou mayest not sell. I sell thee poison, thou hast sold me none. Farewell, buy food, and put some flesh on thy bones." So he says, "Thank you. Here's your gold, here's your money." Um, and he says, "If you think about it that way, really I've given you poison. You haven't given me any, so you don't have to feel guilty." He says, buy food, put some flesh on your bones, and he just buys the poison from him. He says, "Come, thou art medicine, not poison. Go with me to Juliet's grave, for there must be safe." So now he is headed to Juliet's grave to see Juliet. All right, so really quickly, I want to do some notes. for scene one, and then we'll go back and do scene two. So Balthazar goes to see Romeo in Mantua and tells him the news of Juliet dying before the letter from Friar can get to Romeo. Romeo has no idea that Juliet is not really dead, is faking her death. He decides to go to Verona to see Juliet and on his way buy some poison, kill himself from a nearby apothecary pharmacist. Okay, so now let's do scene two. It's very quick. So now we're back at Friar Lawrence's monastery or his cell. It's Thursday afternoon, and the only two people in this scene are Friar John and Friar Lawrence. Friar John is a new character that we have not met yet. Friar John was the one that was supposed to go bring the letter about Juliet faking her death to Romeo. And keep in mind, this hasn't happened. So enter Friar John. Friar John says, "Brother Ho." Hi, brother. Brothers, monks call each other, or priests call each other brother. They're not actually related. Enter Friar Lawrence. This should be the voice of Friar John. Welcome back from Mantua. What says Romeo? Or if his thoughts be written, give me his letter. He says, what did Romeo say in Mantua? Did you give him my letter, basically? Friar John says, on my way to Mantua, I was stopped to find a brother to accompany me who was visiting the sick. But once I found him, the town officials, suspecting that we were both in a house where the infectious plague had hit, sealed up the doors to quarantine us and would not let us go forth. So my journey to Mantua was prevented. So Friar John tried to get to Mantua, but on his way to Mantua, he visited someone that was sick with the plague. And because the plague was so infectious back then, people would be quarantined if they were exposed. This is something that we all can we can really relate to at this point with coronavirus and all. So he went to go deliver the letter to Romeo, went to visit someone that was sick on the way, and got quarantined in a house. So he could not deliver the letter to Romeo. Says, my journey to Mantua was prevented. I couldn't make it. Friar Lawrence says, then who bore my letter to Romeo? Then who sent my letter to Romeo? Friar John says, I could not send it. Here it is again. He gives Friar Lawrence the letter. Nor could I get a messenger to bring it. So fearful were they of an infection. So this letter has not made it to Romeo because this guy got quarantined and was unable to deliver it to Romeo. So this means that Romeo has no idea of the plan that Friar came up with Juliet to fake her death. He thinks she's really dead. Friar Lawrence, realizing this, says, unhappy fortune. By my brotherhood, the letter was not a nice greeting, but full of important news. Romeo not receiving it may do much danger. Friar John, go hence, give me an iron crowbar and bring it straight unto my cell. So he says, this is not good. Romeo not receiving this letter is going to make danger happen. And now we need to go get a crowbar and we're going to go bring it to, get me a crowbar. We're going to bring it to the tomb and try to intervene before Romeo gets there. Here's a picture of a crowbar. Friar John says, brother, I'll go and bring it thee. Exit Friar John. Friar Lawrence says, now must I go to the tomb alone. Within the next 3 hours will fair Juliet wake. She will curse me much that Romeo hath no knowledge of these events. But I will write again to Mantua and keep her at my cell till Romeo come, poor living corpse closed in a dead man's tomb. Exit Friar Lawrence. So he is going to go try to intervene before Romeo makes it to Juliet's tomb. Remember, Romeo's on his way to kill himself at Juliet's tomb, so Friar Lawrence needs to get there quickly to make sure that this doesn't actually happen. So that's the end of Act 5, Scene 2. I'm going to go back to our notes. We're going to take another. Um, Friar John was supposed to deliver a letter to Romeo about Juliet faking her death, but couldn't make it there because of the plague. So Romeo thinks Juliet is actually dead. Friar Lawrence is on his way to try to stop Romeo from doing anything impulsive. Okay, so basically, Balthazar sees Juliet, lets Romeo know that Juliet is dead, and Romeo's on his way to the tomb. He has no idea that Juliet is not really dead and that she's faking her death. He buys some poison from an apothecary to try to kill himself. We also find out that Friar John was the friar that was supposed to deliver a letter to Romeo about Juliet faking her death, but he couldn't make it there because of the plague. So Romeo thinks Juliet is actually dead, and Friar Lawrence is also on his way to try to stop Romeo from doing anything impulsive. So everyone's on their way to the tomb right now to see Juliet, and Romeo is going there to kill himself. Friar is going there to try to stop him. All right, so that is we've got one more video. You guys are doing great. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.